Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. All praises for Allah and peace be upon Muhammad and the family of Muhammad. In 2023, I went to Iraq thinking I knew what mattered in life. I came back knowing I had it totally wrong. See? In Najaf, there was a man living in a room beside our hotel barely big enough to lie down in. A blanket, a stand for his Quran, and almost nothing else. When I first got there, he came up to me and started speaking to me. I could not understand what he was saying, but somehow I felt connected to him. It was strange because we did not share the same words, but in that moment I felt something from his heart. He looked at me with kindness, like he had known me for longer than a few seconds. And maybe that is what stayed with me the most, that sometimes the heart understands what the tongue cannot explain. And he had a calm about him that you cannot fake. What stayed with me was not anything he owned, it was everything he had clearly learned to live without. I think he was the first truly person I'd ever met. Not free because he had everything, but because he had reached a point where losing everything would not have changed who he is. His peace did not come from what was in his room, it came from what was in his heart. And the more I looked around Iraq, the more I realized he was not the only one like that. So many people there had so little, yet they gave like they had everything. They were not holding on to this world the way so many of us do. They had less in their hands, but somehow more in their hearts. And I remember someone later sharing a perspective with me that made me understand why. He said, if you are holding money that belongs to someone else, returning it does not feel like a loss because you know it was never yours to begin with. And then he said something that completely changed the way I looked at khums and zakat. They are not simply a portion of our wealth that we give for the sake of Allah, rather they are a trust and amanah, a portion of Allah's provision that He placed in our hands for a time, and when the time comes to give it back, we are not losing anything. We are simply returning a trust to the one who entrusted it to us. Maybe that is why people gave it so easily. Maybe that is why they give while having so little themselves. Because they did not see themselves as owners of what they had. They saw themselves as caretakers. Caretakers of blessings that came from Allah and would one day return to Allah. And when you begin to see wealth that way, giving no longer feels like a sacrifice. You realize that nothing was ever truly yours to begin with. It was always an amanah, and amanah is meant to be returned. Imam Ali alayhi salam said, contentment is a wealth that never ends. For years that was just a sentence to me, but in that room I finally saw it. The world spends every day telling us to collect more, while Imam Hussein alayhi salam teaches us to become more. Because when our last day comes, we take nothing out of this world except our character, our deeds, and the person we spent a lifetime trying to become. And no one embodied that truth more than the master we are remembering tonight. Imam Hussein alayhi salam was offered his life if he would only stay silent and look away. He, Yet he refused, and he gave everything for that refusal. His companions, his brothers, his sons, his own body on the sand of Karbala with the river in sight and his children crying from thirst. When I stood in Karbala, I kept asking myself a question. If Imam Hussein alayhi salam gave everything for the truth, what am I willing to give? What comfort am I willing to leave? What desire am I willing to fight? And what part of my ego am I willing to sacrifice? Because loving Imam Hussein alayhi salam isn't just crying for him. It is allowing his sacrifice to change the way we live. We are still here, 14 centuries later, because of one thing: he would not surrender. O Allah, awaken our hearts before death awakens them, and keep us on the path of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and count us among his true followers. And may Allah bless us all to not only cry for Imam Hussein, but to live with the values he gave for everything. Bare Muhammad Muhammad Salawat.